Remember, if you're in a hard season, don't give up on the possibility of healing. Reach out for help, repair when you can. Too often, couples who've come to me are got one foot out the door. Be proactive, not reactive. Love is work, covenant is a choice. But when two people choose to stay, to grow, to protect their bond, the pieces of a broken past can become a breathtaking mosaic of hope. Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgins. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Kenya Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. Hey, welcome back to Coach Soul. Kenya and Jeremy, happy anniversary. To our listeners and viewers, Kenya is out today. It's October the 10th, and we are celebrating 14 plus years of marriage for them being together. And so congratulations to them. And, it's just astounding how two people who are dedicated to each other, who are faith-based, that have God centered in their marriage, is able to look at various ways that they can be able to look at their marriage, not as a contract, but as a covenant. And I really want to take a pause and talk about the word marriage, because too often today, it seems like marriage is treated as a contract or a fast food. We're in and out and it's done and over. And it's not looking at the meat source of what binds this two people's hearts together. In my book, Piece by Piece, I talk about how often that we tend to not heal from our childhood hurt wounds before getting into our first marriage. And if our first marriage does not heal from childhood hurt wounds and then into the first marriage, it creates a recipe of disaster. 67% or higher of second marriages end in divorce. And do we think about the word marriage as a covenant? Where it says, I'm binding my life to yours through joy and through fire. I mean, this is what we discussed through better for worse in our vows in a marriage. It's not built on perfect circumstances. A marriage is built on enduring promise. When you see marriage as a covenant, you stop looking for escape routes and start looking for ways to fight for us, especially when it comes to Mosaic families where pressures are real. History, kids, money, in-laws, outlaws, ex-laws. Covenant thinking matters even more. Now, granted, I want you to hear me out. I'm not saying that we stay in marriages where there's hurting constantly, chronic hurt. Sometimes that could be turning into trauma bonding, and that's a whole different segment that I want to talk about. But I'm talking about a marriage that is wholesome, that started out well. Yeah, things get in the way, and what I want to talk about is what are the anchors, not like a ship anchor. I want to thank Neil Beam. He's the creator of the Amazon app, by the way, no longer with Amazon, and he's a chief technical officer of another company. And revealing some of his information, I now thank him for the word anchor is wall climbing. When we're rock climbing up this mountain, we use these anchors to tie us into this mountain. And now we hold these ropes are our lifeline. What are the key anchors that hold our marriage together when our storms hit? Number one, I want you to think about your shared vision. Talk about the why of your marriage. Not just raising kids or paying bills, but think about what story do you want to write together? What values drive your decisions? It's what is the mortar, the glue? That's the reason why I changed the word blended to mosaic, because mosaic indicates grout that holds individual pieces together to form a beautiful picture. I think that makes more sense than saying a blended, but more of a mosaic. You still have two individuals coming together and you're driving your decisions together, but are we sitting down as we date? For those who have not yet gotten married yet, have you sat down and talk about deep stories about, what does this look like? What is your belief system about raising kids, finances, those type of things? Yeah, it's great to have fun in a relationship, but eventually we're going to live life. Number 2 key anchor I wanted you to think about is faithful presence. It's about showing up, not just physically, but emotionally. Too often I hear women, why are men so emotionally unavailable in a relationship? Women, if your men cannot talk to you, is that the right man to be in a relationship with? Men, it's time to step up and start being vulnerable and being able to confront and process these emotions. Our women want to be in our lives, but to both men and women, I say, listen before fixing. Be curious about each other's inner world. What is it that causes you to believe a certain way that you do? What ways can I show up in your life to help it to be better? A dating question would be, if you came home one day and you were stressed out, what is something that you need in that moment that would help you to calm down? Sometimes it's just a hug or greeting at the door. Are we doing these things? Are we faithfully being present, not only in our relationships, but with ourselves too? A number 3 anchor that I could think about holding a marriage together is honest repair. Conflict is not failure, but refusing to repair is. Think about sincere apologies. Own your mistake. Learn how to reconnect after the distance. The reasons why we yell is because our inner child is not being seen. It's not being heard. It's not being, kept safe. Ask yourself, do you feel safe? What ways can you help your spouse to see your inner child that's hurting? So it's learning how to reconnect. It's like, I see you. But at the same time, when we get into this, number 4 anchor in a marriage is protective boundaries. Protect your marriage from outside erosion. I often tell females more than anyone, because women have this social context of women's supports. And too often, because emotion drives emotion, we don't sit and process. And then we say something, all of a sudden everybody's on the bandwagon, you need to get out. But you were in the heat of the moment and didn't realize that you contributed to the pain too. So be careful about protecting your marriage from outside erosion, gossip, oversharing. Yeah, it goes for men too. Being careful letting ex-partners of social media have too much power or say. Be your own person. Set the tone to protect your marriage. Number 5 anchor point that I want you to think about is have a daily investment. We go to the bank, we deposit our money, hoping we'll have some kind of investment coming back. Is that a small risk? Do we take bigger risk and go to stock markets and invest? Marriages are the same way. What are we doing to have a daily connection of an investment? Do we have rules or rituals of connections, like a kiss goodbye? Are we sharing prayers together? Men, just because we put a ring on it doesn't mean we stop dating. Women need irregular date nights. They need connectivity. They are social creatures. They need to be able to know that they're wanted, desired. Set up a date night. Okay, so we're strapped for money. You know what? Why not make a picnic? Take her to a park and you sit down. That is a thought that goes far beyond just going out for a restaurant and paying for that. But the bigger daily investment, the one that cannot be bought. Too often I hear in marriages that come into my office about their struggles. Where's the words of gratitude? Do we think our spouses, those that are in our lives, that I'm thankful I got to wake up to you today? What is something that I can do to make your day better? Hey, thank you so much for remembering to pick up my prescription, or thank you so much for reminding me I forgot all about such and such. Were there words of gratitude? Create small acts of resiliency. Too often we have problems, and I get that we have problems, but are we investing in each other so that we don't feel like we have to go through these problems alone? Yeah, it's great to be married, but sometimes people feel alone in their marriages. Number 6 anchor I want you to think about is having a hopeful presence, perseverance, meaning that you choose to believe that storms are seasons, but not the end. It may feel like it, so you stand together even when the feelings waver. We don't talk too much about the feelings that waver. Women in their 40s typically have a higher rate of divorce filings than any other. And that's because too often, I think, when you think about hormones, menopause hits, premenopausal, postmenopausal, menopausal. And this is more of a cursing than a blessing to women, because too often men, they don't know what they're thinking. They struggle with why they think the way they think and how they feel, and they can't figure it out. And so it becomes stressful, and they may bite your head off, and you may take it as a personal attack, and they're not trying to attack you. Sometimes it's just being that hard rock and walking over and giving them that hug that they need and say, we've got this. It's standing together when the feelings waver. Covenant marriage is not about never hurting each other. It's about never abandoning the table where healing can happen. If you're listening today and your marriage feels thin, start just with one anchor. Try to share a vision with each other. Repair a small hurt. Set a boundary. Choose hope again. Marriage is worth fighting for, not because it's easy, because when it's protected and nurtured, it becomes a safe place where love can be rebuilt and generations can heal. Okay, I hear you cry out, and I hear the discussions about what if they're in substance abuse? What if they're doing this? And what if they're abused? What if? Listen, are we creating healthy boundaries? Are we creating healthy boundaries to self? Do they want to change? Can we get them the help that's needed? And I'm not saying we got a divorce, but at the same time, I want you to feel safe. But are we contributing to what's happening? That's another question we need to ponder. Marriage is a covenant, means that we work together. Kenya has shared some things. Other people have shared some things. I even shared some things when it comes difficult in relationships. But the biggest question to show up in a marriage with a covenant is, are we loving ourselves through the eyes of God? Yeah, I get it. You know, some of you are not believers, and that's fine. Well, are we loving ourselves in the way that we need to be loved? I know sometimes in our past, our parents, didn't help, or whatever happened in our past didn't help us to feel safe, loved, or valued, seen, or heard. And those wounds carry out, and they deep root seat themselves into our souls. And often we lash out, we react, we become active. We begin to see through the eyes of our attachment of hurt. So when I think about marriage as a covenant, it's being able to be patient, being able to understanding, is introspective. In our culture, marriage is often treated like a contract. What do I mean? A contract says I'll agree to be with you as long as you meet my expectation. And if one side fails, the other can walk away. Contracts about protection and self-interest. So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a covenant is not based on feelings of convenience. It's built on promise. A sacred binding commitment between two people, which says, I truly choose you fully and I'll work for us even when it's hard. I'm not looking for an exit. I'm building something meant to last. So a covenant changes how we approach struggle. Instead of asking, should I stay? We ask, how do we heal? How do we rebuild trust? How do we grow strong? I get it. It takes two people to do these things. But a covenant is a love that fights for restoration. And I know we'll face grief. loyalty conflicts, outside voices. We will keep the marriage sacred while loving our children well. We will create a home built on perseverance and grace. And that's what a covenant says. So a covenant anchors our couples. And marriage is not disposable. It's not meant to be a revolving door of trying and quitting. Covenant is about standing together when it should be easier to run. It's a choice to build love that can outlast pain. And in families, that's a choice that can be rewrite generations when we choose to be able to work together. And when you think about working together, you say, well, they're not want to work with me. What I think is sometimes even with the best intentions, two people cannot build or rebuild together, but maybe trust was shattered and one person will not pursue healing. Maybe there's a chronic betrayal, untreated addiction, or emotional or physical abuse. Maybe every effort towards unity is met with contempt or control. Let me be clear. Covenant is never a permission slip for harm. Marriage calls for endurance and grace, but it also calls for safety, dignity, and truth. So when the relationship is unsafe or one partner refuses to work towards repair, it's healthy and sometimes necessary to step back and protect yourself and your children. And if you're there, don't stay silent. Reach for professional counseling or support network. Set boundaries. Distance is safety or not failure. They're stewardship of your life and your kids' well-being. Seek wise counsel, a therapist, a faith leader, a support group. They can help you separate normal struggle from destructive harm. Remember, covenant is an invitation to fight for love, not to accept abuse or permanent betrayal. There's a difference between hard seasons that can heal and patterns that destroy. For some of you, that most courageous covenant you can keep is the one you made before God to protect life and seek truth. That might mean asking for help, confronting harm dynamics, and when there's no response or change, choosing safety and health for you and your children. When you think about marriage, how do people like Kenya and Jeremy last for 14 plus years? There's a lot of recipes. And when you think about the recipe, what's love? When you think about the call to marriage, it's a journey. It's a home. It's a covenant. However you name it. Keep choosing love. Keep choosing healing. And keep choosing to build a story that outlasts the pain. And I get things happen. I know things happen. And so when you think about, before we go, I want to leave you with this. Marriage is not just a contract, it's a covenant. A living, breathing promise you make with your whole life. And when that covenant lives inside and out of a Mosaic family, it becomes more than a sacred situation. It's not a situation. It's people's lives. It's your life. It's their life. It's your kids' life. When that covenant lives inside a Mosaic family, it becomes even more sacred because you're not about protecting your own love. You're shaping what love will look like for the next generation. Is there going to be pressure? Well, sure. Are there going to be old childhood wounds and competing loyalty? Sure. But you can always build something new. You can name who you are as a family. Create rituals that anchor everyone. And tell an even stronger story than the pain behind you in a second marriage. Remember, if you're in a hard season, don't give up on the possibility of healing. Reach out for help, repair when you can. Too often, couples who've come to me or got one foot out the door. Be proactive, not reactive. Love is work. Covenant is a choice. But when two people choose to stay, to grow, to protect their bond, the pieces of a broken past can become a breathtaking mosaic of hope. So this week, ask one another, what kind of love story are we writing? And begin, even if it's small, to build the us that will outlast the storm. So happy anniversary, Kenya and Jeremy. May many years of love and covenant come before you. Until next time, take care. God bless. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, We want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning into Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.